Hello, and thank you for joining us at xm.com. In this preview video, we'll be looking at Japanese data coming up and the outlook for the yen. While the major central banks have been on a tightening crusade for over a year now, the Bank of Japan has been extremely dovish. But could data coming up this week change the bank's outlook? I'm Christina Marujos. With me today is investment analyst Achilleas Georgolopoulos. Achilleas, inflation and GDP numbers for Q1 are on the week's agenda. What could we see in the report, and how could that potentially affect the Bank of Japan's policy moving forward?
Good morning, Christina. Yes, the BOJ is of course an interesting case, and it's been in a tough spot over the past 2 years because the rest of the world has been essentially hiking aggressively from New Zealand to Canada, and of course the big ones, US, Europe, and the UK. But the BOJ has been trying essentially to formulate a strategy, which has been very odd, and of course it had an impact on the yen, as we will see in a bit. We have a new governor, of course, in place. We've had the first meeting that he was in charge. Nothing was announced at the 29th of April meeting, which was not unexpected, but the market thought something will happen, so there is a bit of a disappointment in the air. We have to admit, though, that the Japanese economy has been making progress lately. So we had inflation ticking up, we have some strong data, so not everything is really bad at this stage with Japan. But it lags behind the rest of the world. For example, inflation. And that, of course, didn't give the excuse to the BOJ to be more aggressive. So the BOJ over the last 2 years hasn't done much, or to be fair, has done very little compared to the rest of the world. What has been very interesting lately is wages in Japan. For a few decades, wages were very stagnant in Japan. This changed this year, where we had strong above inflation increases, and the BOJ acknowledged that. So at the last minutes that we're referring to the first WEDA meeting, we saw quite a few comments from BOJ members about the importance of wages going forward and the need for sustainable increases. Of course, the BOJ cannot really affect the process, but it's important that if they keep talking about it, then maybe at some stage they influence the wage negotiations. But at least they understand that that's the key for the BOJ going forward. Regarding this week, we have quite a few of data. CPI on Friday and the GDP on Wednesday stand out, obviously. The first quarter of GDP is expected to be slightly above positive, quarter-on-quarter change, of course. However, when we consider the similar prints in US and Germany, there is a sizable risk for a downside surprise, so we have to keep that in mind. Regarding the CPI, that's national CPI, the headline is expected to drop below 3%, but core to remain comfortably above 3%. So it's interesting to see how that mix progresses.
And now let's turn to the market reaction. The yen has been suffering recently. Could data coming up this week offer it any support?
Yes, the yen has been extreme pressure this year, partly or mostly on the back of the monetary policy divergence. As we said before, BOJ has done nothing essentially compared to the rest of the world. It had another bad day when we got the BOJ meeting at the end of April. That caused essentially a 15-year high in the euro yen at 151.61. That was a massive number, as you can understand. Since then, we have had a bit of a recovery, so the yen bulls try to essentially limit their losses, but they need information, they need extra boost from the BOJ, from the economy, essentially to continue on that recovery. Maybe this week's data, if we have let's say a positive mix of data, especially the CPI, that's the key one, then they can try and push the euro-yen pair towards the 145 area. On the other hand, of course, if we get negative data, we get CPI, even core going below 3%, then it won't be difficult for euro bulls to essentially push it towards the 150 area.
Achilleas, thanks so much. And thank you for watching this preview video here at xm.com.